Okay, I want to start today with a little visualization exercise. So just humor me for a second.
I'm intrigued. Okay.
Wherever you are, and please, if you're driving, keep your eyes open. But if you can, just close your eyes. Now, picture Vincent van Gogh. What's the very first thing that pops into your head?
You know, if I were a betting person, I'd say most people are seeing a straw hat.
Yeah, the hat.
Maybe that white bandage around his ear, and almost certainly a very intense, scraggly red beard.
That is the postcard image, isn't it? The whole tortured artist thing.
It is.
But here's the argument we're going to explore today. When you think of Van Gogh, you shouldn't really see a face at all. You should see a collision.
A collision. I like that.
Specifically, a searing, almost blinding yellow crashing right into a deep, swirling midnight blue.
It's a much more accurate way to view him, honestly, because today we aren't just looking at pretty pictures. We're effectively decoding a secret language.
A secret language.
Yeah, and we're drawing from this fantastic deep dive by Anita Louise Art called The Secret Language of Color, which argues that Van Gogh wasn't just a painter. He was the great disruptor of the 19th century.
The great disruptor. I have to admit, I love that. It makes him sound like a tech CEO, not a guy with an easel in a field in France.
Well, he kind of was.
But was he really that radical? I mean, at the end of the day, paint is just paint, right?
But that's where we get it wrong. You have to understand the context. Before Van Gogh, if you were an artist and you looked at a tree, your job was to paint that tree green.
Because trees are green. Simple.
Exactly. That was realism. It was about accuracy. It was basically, data entry with a brush.
So you were a human camera. Your job was just to document reality.
Precisely. And then Vincent comes along and just says, no. After Vincent, a tree could be red, it could be purple, it could be gold.
And the tree didn't change.
The tree didn't change one bit. The artist's heart did. He completely shifted the whole paradigm from capturing reality to capturing emotion.
Okay, so that's our mission today. We're going to decode this secret language. We're going to use his absolute obsession with yellow and blue as a kind of Rosetta Stone to understand how he revolutionized art.
It's a journey worth taking because honestly, once you understand the code, the why behind the colors, you never look at a Van Gogh painting the same way again.
It stops being a picture.
And it starts being a conversation.
So let's set the scene. It's 1888. Van Gogh packs his bags. He arrives in Arles in the south of France. Why there? Was he just looking for a vacation?
It was definitely strategic. He was looking for light. He called it the studio of the South. He wanted intensity.
And he found it.
He found it in the relationship between the blazing, relentless sun and that vast, vast sky. This is where we see his palette just explode.
Which brings us to the power couple of this deep dive. Yellow and blue. The source material says these aren't just, aesthetic choices. There's a deep psychology here.
Yeah.
Let's start with yellow. Why was he so obsessed?
Yellow is, it's complicated in Van Gogh's work. On a technical level, he was using a pigment called chrome yellow.
Chrome yellow.
It was relatively new, thanks to the Industrial Revolution. It was incredibly bright, much brighter than older yellows like ochre. But here's the kicker. It was notably toxic. It had lead chromate in it.
Of course it did. Seems like everything in the 19th century was trying to kill you, so he's painting with poison.
In a way, yes. There are theories that lead poisoning from, nibbling on paint chips or just handling it contributed to his mental state.
Wow.
But for Vincent, the risk was worth it. Yellow wasn't just a color. It was a state of grace.
Think about the sunflowers.
Exactly. You've seen them. You've got yellow petals, a yellow vase, a yellow table, a yellow background. It's just yellow on top of yellow.
Which logically should look flat or just washed out. If I dressed in all yellow, I'd look like a banana. But in the painting, it doesn't look flat. It feels hot.
It feels alive. It represents this aggressive optimism. And biologically, we now know that yellow actually triggers serotonin release in the brain. It wakes us up. It's the sun.
And here's the disruptor part. There's a duality to it. Because there's such a thing as too much sun, right? It burns.
Exactly. While it represents hope and vitality in Vincent's hands, that much yellow can start to feel almost frantic. It's his manic energy on the canvas. It's beautiful, but it's almost too bright. It's bordering on obsession.
Okay, so yellow is the sun, the mania, the aggressive optimism. What's blue? Is it just the background?
No, blue is the counterweight. If yellow is the earth and the flesh, then blue is the soul. It's the infinite.
I think we all feel that when we look at the Starry Night. That's the most famous example, right?
It is, and look at those swirling blues. That's not a weather report. He wasn't painting a literal sky, he was painting a spiritual atmosphere.
Right.
Physically, the color blue actually lowers the heart rate. It calms us. But for Van Gogh, it wasn't just about calm. It was about the unreachable.
The source material mentions something really poignant here, that for him, blue wasn't just the blues, as in sadness. It had a connection to the afterlife.
Yes. He believed blue was the color of the cosmos, where souls went after death. It links melancholy to the divine, so you have this huge tension. The frantic, toxic, beautiful yellow of life clashing with the deep, spiritual, infinite blue of the soul.
That tension explains why the paintings feel like they're vibrating. But before we get to the physics of that, which is super cool, why did he feel the need to change the colors of reality in the first place?
Well, the camera.
The actual camera.
Yeah, photography was exploding in popularity. Suddenly, a machine could make an accurate image of a bedroom better, faster, and cheaper than any painter.
So painters are having a collective existential crisis.
Totally. The robots are taking our jobs, 19th century style. They had to ask, if the camera does accuracy, what do we do? And Van Gogh's answer was, we do depth. We do psychology.
The camera can see the outside, but I will paint the inside.
That's it.
There's a perfect example of this in the breakdown. The bedroom in Arles. So if I took a black and white photo of his actual bedroom, what would I see?
You'd see a cramped, probably dusty room with cheap pine furniture. It was a budget rental.
Okay. But how did he paint it?
He painted the walls a pale, soothing violet. The floor, a fresh red. The wooden bed wasn't brown, it was a bright, buttery yellow.
Violet walls. In a cheap boarding house, I highly doubt his landlord signed off on that.
Highly unlikely, but that's the point. He wasn't documenting the room, he was documenting the feeling of the room. He wanted to convey absolute rest.
So he's dictating to you, the viewer, how you should feel before you even know what you're seeing.
He is hacking your brain. He's saying, I'm going to make you feel peaceful by using these colors, even if the reality was totally different.
And that, right there.
That is the birth of expressionism. The artist's job shifted from reporter to interpreter. He gave artists permission to lie about the facts in order to tell the truth about the emotion.
Okay, let's get back to that vibration idea. Because when you stand in front of a Van Gogh, it really does feel like the painting is humming. It's almost hard to look at. And it turns out that's not magic, it's physics.
It is physics, and it's based on something called the law of simultaneous contrast. It was a theory popularized by Eugene Delacroix, and Van Gogh was a huge student of it. He read about color theory like we read the news.
So break it down for us. Why does it make the painting vibrate?
It sounds technical, but it's actually pretty simple. If you take two complementary colors opposite each other on the color wheel, and put them side by side.
Like yellow and purple, blue and orange.
Exactly. They make each other appear brighter than they would on their own. But here's the vibration part. Your eye has trouble focusing on both at the same time when they're right next to each other.
So my eye's just getting confused.
It's working overtime. It jitters back and forth at the boundary line, creating an optical illusion of motion. The hum is your eye doing frantic little push-ups.
The best example of this has to be Cafe Terrace at night.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, picture that painting. You have the warm, glowing, intensely yellow interior of the cafe.
The gaslight.
And it is set directly against the deep, star-studded blue of the street, blue and orange, yellow, opposites.
So they're just amping each other up.
They're fighting for your attention. They're vibrating against one another. If he'd painted a gray street next to a yellow cafe, it would look flat. But by using the complement, he creates light where there isn't any. He hacked our optics to make the painting feel alive.
It's amazing to think he was calculating this. It all feels so raw, but there was a system underneath it all.
There was absolutely a system. He wrote about it constantly to his brother Theo. He had a specific color code.
Okay, let's decode the darker side of that code. We know yellow was happiness, blue was the divine. But the source material talks about his use of red and green, and it's not very festive.
No, definitely not Christmas.
No.
If yellow and blue were his power couple for life and soul, red and green were what he called the colors of terrible passions.
Terrible passions. That
Yeah.
sounds ominous.
It was meant to be. Look at the night cafe. Now, don't confuse this with a nice outdoor terrace. This is the inside, late at night. It's a dive bar. The patrons are slumped over. And the colors.
Yeah, describe the colors. Because they're not normal.
He uses these clashing blood red walls and a sickly swamp green ceiling. And the lights, they aren't glowing warmly. They have these weird green halos.
And what was the intent there? Why make it look so Sickly?
He wrote that he wanted to express a place where one could ruin oneself, go mad, or commit a crime.
Wow. Go mad or commit a crime. He did that just with wall paint colors.
With colors and with technique. He wasn't trying to make it look nice. He was trying to make it feel uncomfortable. He wanted you to feel the anxiety of the space.
He wanted the colors to be loud.
Exactly. He often squeezed the paint directly from the tube onto the canvas. He didn't want to dilute the power of the pigment.
And that leads us perfectly into the next layer of his language, texture. You can't talk about Van Gogh without talking about how his paintings are basically 3D.
Right, the impasto technique.
Impasto. What does that actually mean?
It just means applying paint really thickly. But Van Gogh took it to an extreme. The paint has physical ridges. If you look at one from the side, it's like a topographical map.
And that does two things, right?
It does. First, it catches the actual light in the room where the painting hangs. So the painting casts tiny shadows inside the brushstrokes.
So the painting literally changes as you move around it.
Exactly. It interacts with your environment. But second, it creates movement. Look at his wheat fields. Those thick yellow strokes, they follow the direction of the wind, they swirl. It makes the color feel like physical energy.
So we have the psychology of color, the physics of contrast, and the sculpture of texture. It's a triple threat.
It is. And that is why he is the giant that he is. He didn't just make pretty pictures, he created a whole new way of seeing.
And that legacy, it didn't stop when he died.
No, it was just the beginning. He paved the way for the moderns. You have the fauves, which means the wild beasts, artists like Matisse.
They took his rule breaking and just ran with it.
They ran with it. They started painting people with blue faces and skies that were green, just fully embracing that emotion over reality idea.
And then you get the expressionists.
Like Edvard Munch. Think of The Scream. That painting is pure anxiety. You can see the direct line from Van Gogh's terrible passions in the night cafe to the terror in Munch's work.
The source material brings up a really cool point about today, too. It says that every time we see a movie poster with bold, clashing colors, like that teal and orange thing,
we're seeing Van Gogh's ghost.
We are.
We take it for granted now that color is used to manipulate our emotions in ads and logos, but Vincent was the one who really codified that language.
So what does this mean for us? For the person listening right now, we aren't all 19th century painters.
No, but we all live in a world of color, and I think the challenge here is to find your own color language.
I like this suggestion from the article. Next time you're out walking, look for those clashes.
Right. Try this. If you see a bright yellow dandelion growing out of a gray concrete sidewalk, just stop for a second. Don't just identify it. Ask yourself, how does this contrast make me feel?
Does the yellow feel hopeful, or does the gray feel oppressive?
Exactly. It's about moving from passive seeing to active feeling.
Van Gogh taught us that we don't have to accept the world exactly as it appears. We're allowed to interpret it through our emotions.
That is a tremendous freedom.
It is. That's a beautiful thought to end on. The world is what you feel it is, not just what you see.
It really is.
Now, before you go out and start staring intensely at dandelions, I have an important favor to ask. This whole deep dive was powered by the incredible insights from Anita Louise Art.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this, you need to go deeper with them.
Absolutely. There's a whole community over there dedicated to art to make you smile.
So here's your checklist. First, search for Deep Dive with 5 Minutes with Art, or just 5 Minutes with Art in your podcast player, and hit subscribe. Do it right now while you're listening.
And for the visual learners, which if you like Van Gogh, you probably are, you have to subscribe to the Anita Louise Art YouTube channel. The videos are fantastic.
And finally, don't miss out on the written content. Go to Anita Louise Art online. Sign up for the free newsletter. It's a great way to get a little bit of beauty in your inbox, and you can check out the blog to explore more topics just like this one.
Being part of a community that loves art, that's special.
It really is.
Yeah.
So go subscribe, sign up, and keep looking for those colors. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Keep looking up.